Hello, friends. I'm Holly Elissa Bruno, and I'm here with Denise, and she can tell you a little bit about herself, but you might have seen her before. The two of us are here as fellow travelers walking each other home. That's from Ram Dass, who essentially said, we're all just walking each other home. And my daughter and I used to sing a song. Denise, you might remember this too. Um, when she was like a preteen. What if God was one of us, just a stranger on the bus, trying to find his way home? Remember that one?
I do kind of remember that. Yeah.
It just was very, if anything comes to heart or mind as you think about that, let me know. Because for me, the two of us singing it was lovely because I wasn't saying as a mom, I know. I know the answers to all these numinous spiritual, I don't know. And Lily was singing the same thing. I think she liked the tune. Maybe she liked more. But we used to talk about, is there God? Where is God? How do we know? And so I love that we sang that together. And it was a question, just like this is a question. How do we walk each other home? So what does that say to you, if anything, Denise? But walking
Uh,
each other home. Oh my gosh.
It means that, we are consistent with one another and, you know, uh, like I've been coming to these meetings, these Monday meetings since you started them. Then my job got in the way and I
Yeah.
couldn't come for a while. But at first I was actually watching all the recordings
Wow. Okay.
each time and then commenting from there. And then now I get to come again. So I'm happy.
Yeah. I am really happy you're back.
But
And
yeah, I like to, catch up every week and chat about what's happening now. I belong to another group
mhm.
that started on AOL, and it was called Incest Survivor Support Group also. And it was interesting because AOL had like lifestyles and you could further break down into different chat groups. And so this one was lesbian incest survivors, and we still meet. That was
Great.
1990. That was 1999 when we started.
We're talking 25 years.
Yeah, but
Wow.
AOL changed the way that their boards work, so we don't really. There's only two of us. The two of us that facilitated the meetings, we
Oh,
still meet every week. So
so it's the
I'm
two of you. Do other people come too?
no, because you couldn't on AOL. You could be anonymous. You could
Nice.
enter the chat area and there was a place to post your story or whatever were worried about at the moment, and
Okay.
then you could have group chats. So that's what we did. We had like 3 meetings a week at one time because
That's
people would just
so,
come
yes,
through.
circle
And
and
so
come
it's
through.
just important to be seen. We called ourselves mirrors
What does that
because
mean?
we reflected each other's, situations. We have similar effects from our different types of abuse.
So what you're saying is powerful because you're claiming number one to be a survivor of one of the toughest abuses which you and I have both faced, which is the violation by someone close to us of our bodies, which invades everything and invades my brain, invades my heart, invades my soul. And there's nothing like talking to another, for me, like talking to another person who's been a fellow traveler, been through the same thing.
Right.
And then in addition to that, you're saying, you know what? We have something else that distinguishes us. We are lesbian. And that is another place where people can look at us and either say, great, another difference, or people can look at us and say, well, what do they say to you?
Um, Nobody really complains about me being a lesbian, really. I've never had any harassment in that way.
Oh,
Although, when I was in college, our last University of Toledo, our last group big group. We all went through the 4 years together. I
Yeah.
actually stayed longer, but um, the um, the activity was a mock parent meeting, a mock
Mhm.
school board meeting.
Okay.
My role was a gay man that was seen outside of a gay bar, and a parent saw a man touch my man butt in public, and my peers fired me.
Wow. How did you go on? If you can, if it's not too tough, go on from there. What on earth did you do? Because this is a role play.
Right. It was a role play. It was a mock uh, meeting that, that we
Okay.
would probably be inclined to attend these types of meetings if we became elementary school teachers.
Wow. So here you were, a male teacher who was who was sexually aligned with other men, who had the identity of being gay, and he's outside a gay bar.
He wasn't
And
really out gay. He wasn't out. Like nowadays, people are out, they
right.
just say, I'm a gay man or I'm a lesbian but back then they didn't.
No,
You couldn't
no,
really. So we have come a long
because
way, just not all the way.
so my gosh, you're right. I mean, you're right on that. That still people get disowned by their families. I mean, that was really common back in the day.
Right. Or
Um,
some people in my age group or a little bit older than I would have to be subjected to that conversion therapy that evangelical, try to change them.
do you know anybody that got exposed to that? Or I hope you were not. Were you exposed to that?
I was not. I was more neglected because of my mom was like, it's a whole new world. Go supervise yourself, kind
Okay.
of.
Yeah.
So
But
sometimes neglect is good because you get to sow your own
let's hold on to
opinion.
that. Let's go right there for a moment because I feel that over and over again. If someone paid it, I mean, I wanted someone to care about me and love me, but I was so grateful as a kid that I was invisible.
Right,
I mean, I could get up in the morning, go outside, no one, before everybody else was up, nobody noticed. As long as I was home by dinner, that was, I guess,
right.
the standard. And I
Yeah,
could wander
my
off
generation, we rode our bikes all over the city.
everywhere.
We go from north to south to east to west, really. And we were the last unsupervised group of children, really.
What happened, girl? What do you think changed?
Um, you know, a lot of regulations about safety. People just started worrying more about their kids. I don't know. I mean, it's weird because you'd think there would be less supervision because both parents have to work, but somehow they're more supervised now.
Really interesting what you're saying. I'm thinking about that because I always listen to your first response because there's a lot of truth in it. And the first thing you said was safety. Parents are concerned about safety. Now, my parents were not at all concerned about my safety. I don't think they thought about me. So they didn't think that there was possible danger.
Right.
Um, the only rule I remember is that there was a place called Mossy Glen. I lived in the countryside. There was a city of 18,000 people, Corning, New York, but we lived on the outskirts of that in a place called South Corning. And I could look up and see the hill, and I went to that hill whenever I could. I went there because there was a place that was my home. And on the side of the hill, there was a big, huge oak tree. It's like a tree of life. And somebody had taken a huge, I mean, like metal cable that was so thick, it was like an umbilical cord and hard. Somebody had hung it from the tree. And the way I think it was a he had hung it from the tree was to put a log, not a huge log, but one that was like thick enough that you could sit on. So that he attached the cable to the middle of the log, and then there were two parts of the log sticking out like this. So I could literally sit on the log. And as soon as I discovered that, I would go up there whenever I could. It meant climbing up a hill, climbing past a swamp, climbing everywhere. I would go up there and pushed that swing. It was heavy. I pushed it right up to the trunk of the tree because the tree was here like this and the hill was coming down like this. So I push it up here to the
Oh,
tree.
right. So you go back down big.
Right. And as I climbed on, had to be pretty adept at it. So I climbed on the slide. When I let go, when I picked my legs up and I swung down, I was swinging out over the valley. I was swinging out over the valley, and there's a river down there. I could look down and see where my parents' house was. I could look down the hill and see where the river was. I could see everything. And for a child that had no perspective inside a house that was bedlam, to be able to get up there, Denise, and to have perspective, just was holy to me. Now, if I were religious, I would have said God was swinging me in God's arms. I wasn't religious because the religious stuff modeled for me was scary, but it sure felt safe and safe. That's your word. So I don't
Right.
think my parents ever knew I was up there. I mean, I don't think it was just not, I was not in their consciousness. But
Right.
I mean, I could have fallen off that swing as it went way up high. I didn't ever think that I would. I felt safer there than I felt inside that
Safer
house.
outdoors than I felt in my home.
Yes. Where did you go? Because you're such a naturalist. I mean, if you don't know Denise, Denise is this wonderful, how can I say, steward for monarch butterflies, right?
I love the monarch butterflies. I can't wait. In April, they start heading this way.
Next month. Oh my God.
I'm
That's
already
so
looking for 'em.
early. Oh my God.
Well, that's when they start heading this way. It takes them a couple months to
Because they're starting where?
Mexico.
What does that say to you that these tiny, not tiny, but these weightless, fragile
Yeah,
beings?
they're all hanging together in clumps and trees. You can see, oh, where'd I go? I lost my,
We can still see and hear you.
okay, I see you. Yeah,
Okay.
they are hanging in clumps and trees. There's people there that take video of them all flapping together, and it's quite amazing. There were more this year that they're on the incline. So this year I want to get 100. I got
This year,
69,
how many? 69 last year.
and this year I'm
We're all
going.
applauding. If you
Yeah,
follow Denise on her Facebook page, here comes another. And sometimes you got 10 of them. I mean, you
right.
had lots sometimes. Then there was just
Yeah.
one, then maybe two. But what are you doing with these guys?
I have habitat and I collect them as eggs. And then you have to, very carefully watch them. And they start eating the leaf. And then you move them where this year I'm going to do better because last year, if you got bites from the bigger caterpillars, because the bigger caterpillars are so ferocious in their eating, they don't even see if somebody's in front of them. They just will bite them.
Oh, jeez.
Like that very hungry caterpillar book is very true. Womp, 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 womp. They just go crazy. So now
Oh,
I have two habitats so I can have different ages. I
all
can like
right.
up when they get really big.
How
So that,
developmentally appropriate.
right.
Because if
Right.
you, I love it. So Denise, if you like starting in April, it's how like I mean, I grew up outside too. How do you know what is a monarch butterfly egg?
Once you see it, then you will always know what to look for. It looks like a teardrop shape. It's very tiny
Uh,
and it's white, but they're always on the back. Well, typically they're on the back of the milkweed leaves. So what I look for is milkweed.
yep.
I just be driving around and I see milkweed and I'm like, oh,
There they are.
right. I stop for milkweed. So I pull to the side and you just have to look underneath the leaves
Yeah, lift it
until you,
up. And
yeah,
then
you
you
can't
take
bend them, but it's better to bend yourself and look.
Right. Yeah. So bending is not so good. So they're hanging literally just a little bit, or they're
Yeah,
stuck on.
yeah, they stick on. They're like a little teardrop or a dome. They're very tiny. They're very distinctive in their shape and their decoration, I guess.
Yeah.
Then so you pull, well, you have two choices. You can cut the leaf and bring it in, or you can cut the top of the plant. It's usually on the top 1/3 of the plant.
Right.
I stick those into the water and the stem, and then I put them in the habitat. But now I'm going to cut off the leaf because I have to protect the babies because had to learn that last year that the big guys will
Okay.
eat the babies if you just let them all in there together.
And that's interesting that you say they don't even notice what they're doing. They're just going straight for the leaf. And they're
Yeah,
right, very hungry caterpillars and just won't. So
they will
wait,
eat a lot.
girl, what if so you got here, this is an interesting question to me. Are they all emerging at the same time because they were all laid at the same time? No.
No, because usually what happens is I go all over different places looking for milkweed. Once I
Okay.
find where the milkweed is, then I make a little route. Today I go to this one, the next time I go to that one. And so usually I find only two or three. Sometimes I find
A
10.
trove.
Right. If I find 10, then I usually give some of those away.
Nice. To other
Yeah.
people that are doing the same thing?
Right.
Nice.
Mostly teachers, preschool teachers, love doing caterpillars in their classroom. So then they all develop at their own personal rate, which
Okay.
is it's just the same for
As
each one. They
kids.
have phases when they're smaller. Oh, they're so cute too. I just want to kiss them, but you can't.
So they're tiny, tiny little caterpillars when they emerge?
Teeny tiny. When they first emerge, you don't even know. You have to like surmise that it's there. You can't even see it. It's kind of clear.
Wow.
And you can't even
Wow.
see, you can see where it ate on the leaf a little bit. Then in a couple days, it gets to be that yellow caterpillar. It's still very tiny. But then in another week, it'll be big enough to like say, "Oh, hello, caterpillar. There you are."
Do you ever name them?
I did not name any this year. I
But you
call them
have
like Mariposa because that's the Spanish word for
a
butterfly.
butterfly.
So a lot of I just call them Mary.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what if on one leaf you've got a, because what I've seen is on the underside of a leaf, there might be like 5 or 10 of
Just
these.
one of the
Just one?
monarchs. She
Really?
only lays one per leaf and then she flies to another leaf.
I didn't know that. So there's some
Yes,
other kind of caterpillar that's doing the same.
those are the swallowtails will lay several under the same leaf.
I
But
didn't know.
monarchs, there's just one and then she moves to the next. You could follow her around. One time I followed a
Oh,
mother monarch laying eggs around we had like 7 plants at my school in the
yeah.
garden. So I just followed her around and snipped off. She'd lay an egg, I'd snip it off and take it in. I followed her around and snipped off like 5.
And then would you hang the leaves from like a tree that you had created or just put the leaves in how did you do
I
that?
yes, I don't hang them. I used to put sticks, all kinds of sticks, make a
Yeah.
weaving of sticks and then lay them on the
Oh, sure.
sticks. But that's when I only had like 10. But when you have 69,
69.
oh my word, it's constant. It's a lot. So I would
So where do
just
you put them?
I put them all in I snip off the top of the milkweed plant, stick it in a little carry out, the little tiny sauce cups.
Yeah.
Yeah, I punch a hole in that, fill it with water, sticks, so they all stand in the habitat. It's a lizard habitat. It's like really big.
Ah,
So
okay.
all these little cups with
with
tops
this.
of milkweeds, and they all stand around. And over the night, they will eat all that, and you got to put new fresh leaves every day.
What, do they ever drop into the water?
I put a lid and then I stick the
Oh,
stem
it
in
threw
the
it.
just the right size hole, right?
So what if they eat the whole leaf? Do they stay attached to the stem of the central part of the leaf, or where do you find them?
They go find another leaf on the next door neighbor's guy's leaves. That's how sometimes they get bit.
Eaten up. Because if the
Right.
next door neighbor is like hungry caterpillar, very hungry
They're both
caterpillar, we're in
hungry, right?
trouble.
So that's why you have to have plenty of little cups and plenty of little branches.
Oh my God. So you have to devote a lot, you choose to devote time. It's interesting. I had a trauma therapist that would say to me every time I'd say, well, I've got to do this. I have to do this. He would say, Holly Elissa, consider saying, I choose to do this. And
Yeah,
that
I
has made,
choose.
yeah. Can you see how that would make a difference between I've got to do it and I choose to do it?
Yeah, because if you have to, especially abuse survivors have authoritarian issues with authoritative figures and whatnot. So if somebody's telling you got to, no thanks.
Right. It's no thanks, or it's like the hell with you.
Right.
Or it's like, this isn't me. I'm not the one doing this. This is what I have to do, and I'll just do it to get done with it. But what you're saying is you choose to be
Yeah,
hypervigilant, right?
I do.
And now that takes you back to being a survivor, though. How do you deal with that?
Well, hypervigilance is not horrible, you know, it's not.
Tell
Uh,
us what it is, just in case somebody's listening and goes, "What?
just pay attention to every little thing and, in great detail and devote a lot of time analyzing and figuring and attending. It was really good for a preschool teacher because, you have to watch the safety of 17 children in your care. It's good to know where everybody is and what they're doing.
And let's look at some other professions where that pays off. Hypervigilance. People who are hypervigilant often get promoted to management positions. Can you see why?
Right. Yeah,
Like,
because you can pay attention, be multitasking.
so if there's trouble, now here's the thing: why are trauma survivors um, hypervigilant? Why am I watching out? Because I want to see
Be
danger before
safe.
it gets close. I got to be back to your safety point, girl. That's it. I want
Right.
to be safe, and to be safe, I have to see the whole panoply in
Where's
front
the
of me.
danger? Where's the
Where's
danger?
danger?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I discovered this as an adult that my various partners would not like it. I mean, wasn't jumping all over the place with partners, but when I was had a husband, and I would say, oh, let's go sit over there. And what's wrong with right here? And I'd say, because I'm more comfortable over there. He was a psychotherapist, but he didn't understand. And I'm not sure I understood at the time that for me to sit with my back against the wall so that nobody could come from the back, no hordes could come over the valley, the mountains and get me. And that's what it feels like when the amygdala is active. Someone's going to come and get me. So I could sit with my back to the wall, and then I could see doors. I could see was somebody coming in this door, and my body would tell me, because 93% of how we communicate feeling is done without words. So non-verbally, we can see a lot. So I could see who's
Right.
coming through the door, and I wouldn't miss anybody. If there was a little tingle to the door. Mhm, mhm.
Military people are quite attuned to that type of not having their back to the doors, but they trained themselves to be that.
Interesting. I didn't know about that. Can you say a little bit
I
more about that?
Yeah, I had friends in the military and they always want to sit where they can like if you're in a restaurant, they want to see the door.
Isn't that perfect? I
Yeah,
mean, it's perfect. It's when you're saying, yeah, what makes it perfect to you for a survivor?
you have a way out. You know the way out if there's
That's
trouble.
another thing. In terms of safety, there's a way to get out. But if the trouble's coming in the doors, I also can see it coming.
Right. You're the first to know.
I'm the first to know, and I can take care of myself somehow. Maybe, you know what? I usually see where's the door to the kitchen? Because if I have to go that route, and there are a lot of mobster movies, I keep pushing my hair because it's still wet. There are a lot of mobster movies where, somebody comes, like Sicilian mobster movies where somebody comes in with one of those AK whatevers and shoots a whole bunch of people and with having this wonderful pasta thing. Wait till they're done with the pasta, please. But anyway, somebody comes in and shoots them all, and somebody is smart enough to be in the back of the room and go through the kitchen door. And then
Right.
the chase ensues through the kitchen, and the pots and pans are flying. And it's just like
Right.
my childhood.
Right. But in schools, too, teachers face that fear today. Uh, you know, for years, for many years now, we have practiced closing the doors, turning off the lights, finding a safe place for everyone, getting blocks to throw in case we need to, defend ourselves.
What did you teach that? Now, you were with preschool kids, right?
Yes. Three,
What did
4, and 5.
3, 4? Thank you for saying that. And so you're with these little guys that are 3, 4, and 5, and they want to, if they're not trauma survivors, or even if they are, they want to see the world as a place to explore and a place to feel.
Right.
They got to feel
Safe,
safe.
beautiful fantasy. I mean, it's supposed to be all unicorns and rainbows, and that's the way I always wanted to maintain that goodness in my preschool environment.
I hear you, girl. I'm going to go right back to that, but I'm looking at both of us. Anybody watching see rainbows?
Right,
What do we do? We're surrounding ourselves with rainbows, and also the additional, as most people know, the additional symbolism of the rainbow colors is it's okay to be lesbian, it's okay to be gay, it's okay to be bisexual, it's okay. These
right. Well,
differences.
that song was on my first. I saw a preschool show when I was a little child on TV, and how did the song go? I can sing a rainbow, sing red and yellow and pink and green. It wasn't like this rainbow, and the gays hadn't stole it yet from the Christians. So it was just that, colorful, imaginative,
Yeah.
creative, and all that.
Colorful, imaginative, creative, otherworldly, but also very much of the world, and
Right,
special, and only happened on occasion. And if I didn't look up, I would miss it. It's so metaphorical,
right.
the rainbow. Look to the rainbow. Follow it over the hill and the dale. There's so many songs like that.
There are.
I
I
can see
looked
clear.
outside the window and the trees were as green as could be. There's a million songs. Yeah.
Oh gosh, what's the?
Rainbow, rainbow, rainbow around me. That's a good one.
Oh wow, what's the rest of the words to that? I don't think I heard that one. Rainbow,
A
rainbow.
rainbow, rainbow, rainbow around me. Then I would look like I just looked out and saw green trees, but I would try to go through the whole color. So I would go, I looked outside my window and the stop sign was as red as could be.
Nice.
Rainbow, rainbow,
Rainbow, rainbow
rainbow around
all
me.
around me. I love
Yeah,
it. And the kids would get into that.
yes.
What a survivor tool. Have you ever thought of how that one song would be helping a traumatized child?
Right, because it brings you present. This is right here. This is right here. I am right here. That is familiar. I am safe.
That's familiar, it's safe, and also it says to each child, there's hope. To me, it says that there's hope because I might not be seeing red right in front of me, but if I look far enough over there, I can see, gosh, there's somebody's red barn. Back in the day, people used to have red barns, dark red
Right,
barns, a red barn. And so I see it too, teacher. I see it too. And there's hope in
right.
that. Safety and hope. Safety and hope. Do you believe that without safety, there can be hope? I don't have an answer to that.
I don't know. Hope is good though.
Listen, I feel like a lot of my recovery from trauma has been to trust hope because sometimes things get so bleak, so murky, and so impossible to see. And I'm so scared that the only thing that saves me is the possibility that I'll be okay. It's like when I was a preschooler, I'd go around with a little trolley, like you dig holes to plant bulbs and stuff. My mother had those and she kept everything in the basement in the wintertime. And we had a basement that was not cemented. Did you ever remember that? There was the old way of
Yeah.
doing houses. Really? So what did you observe?
My basement was cemented, but we had a little fruit airing called a fruit cellar on the outside. You could enter it from under the porch, and it was just dirt, and it was called a fruit cellar.
And what'd you do with that? What'd you use it for?
Uh, Before we moved there, people threw a lot of dirt and junk down there. So I would jump down there and clean it out myself. That was my thing.
Yeah.
I like
And then
everything.
what would you do in there? Because that sounds like a private place.
Uh, I We played Barbies, cars.
So it's a safe space for you guys.
Right. We just had a safe uh place to play.
So back in the day, and my father built this house. So he was going, and his parents came from Sicily. So, that's where he learned. He learned in the 19th century how things were done. Even though he went to engineering school at Cornell, he knew to build his house, the house that I grew up in, with a dirt cellar. And I kept thinking, what is this about? And my mother, and God bless her, she relieved her pressure inside of herself by continuously screaming. So she used to scream all the time, and she would yell at anybody that came in her sight. And so my father, if he came in her sight, she'd yell, "How many times have I told you?" Blah blah. To put cement down on that cellar floor, but he didn't. He didn't until I was the last kid that went away to college. And one year I came back for like Christmas vacation, and there was cement on part of the cellar floor. Why I'm saying this is that was the way it was. And it's fascinating, isn't it, that we were connected to the earth, that our
Right.
homes were connected to the earth. I had a roommate one time she bought an old farm and we were in law school. She was, God bless her, what they called a trust fund child. Have you ever heard of that?
Right. Wealthy.
Yeah. So there were three of us that shared this house, and um, it was a much bigger house than I ever could have rented a room in. It was great. We rented this house, and the three of us talk about, so when we graduate, what on earth are we gonna do as women in a field that's only had men? As women who have like a commitment to like civil rights, as women that have a commitment to make things better for women, what are we gonna do? And it was fascinating because two of us were putting ourselves through law school, and the third one of us was on a trust fund. And so we would have these conversations, Denise, that fascinated me. Talk about safety. One of us was always safe. She didn't have to work. She had her trust fund. She didn't have to support herself. The other one and I were like always, I don't care if I work for the post office. I've got to make money to support myself. That was just part
Right.
of, and I did work for the post office at one point when I first went into early childhood because I wasn't making enough money to
Right.
support myself and put my daughter through school. So anyway, we do what we got to do. But what I'm saying is, it was not just an eye opener. It was like opened up a whole part of the world to me. What if someone felt safe? What if someone felt safe and didn't have to worry about her survival? I just used
Right.
to like look at her like, oh my God, really? You don't have to work. And so she would talk about things like she would research. We were in Maine, and she would research women who'd been sea captains, women who had businesses. And one of the things I found, I haven't thought about this for years, but I still got the book. One of the things I found, because I used to go to a lot of remember old-fashioned garage sales where people would just clear out their house and put stuff out there? And
Right.
what they'd often clear out, Denise, was like stuff from the 20s, the 30s,
Right.
some
I
really
love
funky
yard sales.
stuff.
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah. Now today, what's back there is like stuff from the 40s and 50s, which is when I was growing up. So it wasn't that exciting. But when I would go to yard sale in Maine, I would find first, what do they call it? The first volume of books that nobody realized this is crucial. So I'd find books from like the Transcendentalists. I go, oh my God, here's a book that I found that I knew was crucial. It was 1850. The book was called What Can a Woman Do? Now, people listening and Denise too, what could a woman do in 1850? Not just to support herself if she was a solo woman, but also to make as much money as men. Because if she was out in the market um, selling handmade goods, they wouldn't have to pay her much because it was made by a woman. What
Right.
on earth could she do that would allow her to make money as much as the men could? Girl, I didn't have the answer either. You ready for this? A woman who was a beekeeper in
Ah,
1850. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Why? Why would that make sense? Why be a beekeeper?
Because you can't be controlled.
Right. You got to do it yourself, and ain't nobody going to come in and jump you and your bees.
Right.
It's going to keep you safe. It's going to be like a protective thing. And the other thing that this person said was, and I think it's a man that wrote the book, What Could a Woman Do? And he explored all the professions that women had in the mid 19th century. And every one of them, a woman, if people knew it was a woman, she was paid less.
Right.
So sewed clothes, you got paid less for because, which is women did that.
Tailoring.
But the Shakers, now they were smart cookies. They had a place in Sabbath Day, Maine. They had men and women. So it was men and women drying and canning spices. They still have those for sale. It was men and women creating special Shaker clothing. I really wanted this. They had a long purple cape that you could wrap around, and in the rain it would keep you dry, and in the snow it would keep you dry. And it could have been made by a man or a woman. So when they sold those to stores, they commanded the same price. And so here's what this guy said. You want to make as much money as a man, become a beekeeper. Because when you go to the market to sell the honeys, people are not going to know whether you raised the honey or your man back home raised the money,
Right.
raised the bees. And either way, honey sells for X amount a pound.
Right.
Isn't that cool? I mean, my God. So what our theme that's emerging here, my friend, is safety. And we were talking about how all survivors seem to know. We all seem to know how to be safe. And so I want to ask you, you're working with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, and God knows Columbine and all these horrible shooting things are happening. And then Newtown happens, and it actually happens to little kids. How do you prepare children for a lockdown or a shoot down without scaring the bejesus out of them, given if 58% of us in early childhood professions are trauma survivors, what percentage do you think of the children that come to us these days are trauma
Right.
survivors?
Especially in poverty programs, they're not that there's more violence. There is more violence in poverty, but it's not that poor people are more violent. It's
Mm-hmm.
that they're in closer quarters, and so violence erupts more. But we would prepare them by saying there's bad guys. There are bad guys. There are
Okay.
bad guys that could come and hurt us. And we're here to keep you safe. And the language of safety we use right away in my classroom, because when the children enter the classroom, they find a little stick that has their picture on it, and they move it from the school family tree, or they move it from the home, I am home, to I am at school in the
Oh,
school family tree, and they say, I am here, I am safe. And they
oh,
stick their stick in.
They're putting their stake in the ground to say, I'm safe, I'm here.
I
And what
belong
a
here.
beautiful thing, girl. You're teaching them that as long as I'm present to myself, I am here, I
I
am
am safe.
safe. Wow. Has that helped you?
Oh yeah, that was a beautiful thing. I learned that from conscious discipline,
Oh,
a
good.
greeting ritual. And yeah, I mean conscious discipline in the last 8 years, I've learned so much from that.
I think there
Uh
got to be a lot of trauma survivors in there. Just in case somebody's listening and doesn't know about conscious discipline, can you tell
yeah,
us what it
Becky
is?
Bailey designed a program, I don't know, probably like 30 years ago now,
Yeah,
maybe
long
more.
time.
It's called Conscious Discipline, and you teach preschoolers and your family members, if you can, about the feelings. There's 8 feelings. They have little feelings buddies. The first thing they do is baby doll circle time with little children. And because a lot of children are in childcare and not at home with their moms, so they never see their mom
Mhm.
nurturing other children. So they get baby dolls and this is my baby, this is my baby, and then my baby standing up, my baby sitting down, and play with babies and learn how to gently nurture them and play with them. That's the
And
first thing.
and tell us before you go on with the first thing, are guys are male kids as good and as open to that as females?
Yeah, when they're 2 and 3 years old, they are.
Yes, they are. They
They're
are.
all willing. In my last classroom, I had
Yeah.
a boys, what I called them the dad club. There were 3 little boys. They would go get a doll and go sit on the blue couch together and hold their dolls.
Ah,
They did it all the time, and
the
I
dad
called it
club.
the dad club.
What a sweet thing. Because other
Yeah, it
people could have
was adorable.
stereotyped them and called them something else, but dad club.
Right, I
How
called them the dad
wonderful.
club.
Wow.
2 were brothers, and their dad was very involved in their. He had a disability. He hurt his leg at work, and so
Uh-huh.
he had a titanium leg, and he was the stay-at-home dad. So
Okay.
these 2 brothers were. It was natural to them. Their dad nurtured them, so they were nurturing, and then they just. There was another friend that liked both of them, and they all 3 of them went there every day and looked at books with their
Oh,
babies,
man.
and I would call them the dad club.
It's so beautiful. How many years ago was that?
That was like 3 years ago.
Okay. I'm wondering like 20 years from now, 15, 18 years from now, what are those guys gonna do and be?
Right. Well, I mean, if I go back to my second year in at this particular program in Holland, the Head Start class, a woman pulled her child out of my class because I allowed him to play in a dollhouse.
Did
She would
you
not allow him to continue.
what
She's
when
pulled
she pulled him right out? This was a Head Start?
Head Start, right. She walked in and he was playing in the dollhouse, and she had a horrible
Mhm.
reaction to that. And, I said, he's learning how to be a dad. He's learning how to be an uncle. He's learning how to help his family decorate the house or whatever, design rooms. Nope, never came back. So
Wow.
there's all extremes, from one extreme to the other
Oh
in
yeah.
our,
When I first worked in early childhood, like 1995, was in Boston and I was sent to Chicago and to work with childcare directors there, a number of whom were men. And we were talking about boundaries and parents. Actually, what we were talking about was parents with different cultural understandings of what gender was about. And
right.
each one, ready for this? Each one of these 3 guys said, I never change a diaper. I said, well, wait a minute. Wait, you're expecting your
How
whole staff.
convenient.
Yeah, no smelly, no smelly. But you know what? I still love you, stinky face. But how? You know what? As I said, was we started talking it through, and the women who were directors were saying, "Well, yeah, of course we change diapers. we got right down into it that the stereotype of a man touching a young child was
Right.
pedophile,
Pedophile.
pedophile, right? And we really worked on that. And some of these guys were saying, well, I'm gonna talk with my parents about this because it's not fair to my staff for me to
Exactly.
model that it's a gender thing to change diapers. I know a man who's still in early childhood, and he's got his own business now, but he is a consultant. But what he did was it was troubling, but it was also true. He had glass, his office totally surrounded by glass. And I said, well, then what if you needed to be doing progressive discipline? Like if a staff member was doing something that, was not appropriate and you needed to be doing discipline, not conscious discipline, although, you were basically doing a disciplinary action with someone and you needed privacy. How did you do that? I don't remember his answer because it was more important to him to have a place surrounded by transparency. Because the
Right.
minute things got dark, somebody could say, oh, he's in there with so and so.
What's going on?
What's going on, whether it was a male or a female.
That's why I hate working in an office. It is like so gross that way.
How so? Say more.
Everybody paying attention to everything and imagining the worst of people. And oh,
It's like what
I'm
you
so
went back
glad to
to.
be out of that office.
Oh, I hear you, girl. And that's a lifesaver. It was in a way, things
Yes.
come through the back door. This came through the
Yep.
back door and let you be free. I mean, if you were to see my space, I'm on the second floor of my condo. Everywhere I look, there's light. There's light coming from over there. Three big skylights here. Over that way, I don't know if you can see it, more light coming in. When I bought this condo, my what I said was, I want light everywhere. I want to be able to be worry for this as a trauma survivor. I said, I want to be able to look out any window. I want to be able to stand any place in my home and see the out of
A
doors.
window. Right.
Now, talk about, I could have had the big letter, scarlet letter A, or the scarlet letter, for like, what was that for back in the day? What was her name? Hawthorne. Scarlet letter A. I forget her name, the woman that had to wear the A because she'd had a baby out of wedlock. And who did she have the
Oh,
baby
right.
with? A preacher man? I mean, I know you're not a reader, so you probably didn't do that stuff. But in my high school, the Scarlet Letter was not. It was like basically a burned book. It couldn't be there. You couldn't
Right.
couldn't even
I
read it.
do remember hearing about that scarlet letter as being like a taboo kind
Right.
of.
And what this woman had to have on her chest, she had to use her own hands to embroider on every outfit she had the red scarlet letter A, which meant she was an adulteress. And the person she had conceived this baby with was the preacher. Now, what did the preacher do? Was he getting away scot free? No, he had so much guilt that he did something what I had to look up. I could imagine it. He wore something called a hair shirt.
Itchy.
Yes, he constantly had a rash and he constantly had like sores beneath on his body because he imposed that on himself. It was his internal scarlet letter
It's
A.
purgatory.
It is purgatory. And I'm talking about this as a trauma survivor because I really could identify with that stuff. Number one, this beautiful woman, Charlotte, wherever she went, if someone saw the front of her, they could put her down in a heartbeat. And a
Right.
trauma survivor, if anybody gets it, that we've got vulnerabilities, hone right in. If this person's sadistic, hone right in on the vulnerabilities.
Right.
And with him, he felt so guilty and was unable, they were living in the same community and he couldn't tell people what had gone on or he would be exiled as she was. She was allowed to sew clothing, I think. People were okay with her being a seamstress, probably didn't pay her as much. Pursuant to that book, What Can a Woman Do? But he was the preacher and he'd stand up at the front of the church every Sunday and he'd be in pain. and scratching and couldn't do anything. His name was Dimsdale, Preacher Dimsdale. Anyway, I'm talking about this because just as I'm listening to you, because a basic question here was, what did you do to help little ones, 3 to 5, sometimes even 2, feel safe in the classroom with you when you're also saying to people, there are bad guys out there, and children are into bad guys. I mean, they know. Some of them love the bad guys,
Right.
or they fight the bad guys. So what else did you do to create a safe environment, especially under threat? Because that's what traumatized child faces. So the first thing, a child came in and there was like a tree and their picture was on it. Is that how it
Yep.
went?
I am here. I am safe.
And they'd move the picture over where? To another
To the
place?
school called the school family tree.
And they'd put it up on the school family tree
And then they were safe.
and they
Then
were
they would
safe.
go over to the group. We would have a morning meeting before breakfast.
Okay.
So we'd just sing songs about peace, love, dope, and sex in the morning and goodness, the goodness. We'd
What's
sing
what's
happy
one of the
songs.
what's one of the happy songs that the children loved?
Um, let's see. This is my school family. This is my school family. This is my school family. Shake hands with a friend.
Oh,
Wave
nice.
to a friend.
Shake hands with a
Dance with
friend.
a friend. We
Oh
had a lot of
man.
songs like that. Songs about the goodness.
I am here, I am safe, and this is my school family. Beautiful. And all of these things that we're talking about, Denise, are tonic, are balm and Gilead to a trauma
Right.
survivor,
For
right?
myself and for them. We are
That's
safe
right.
here. And I'm eye level. I
Mm-hmm.
practice all of best practices. I
Mm-hmm.
talk to each child.
Look at the child. What did you do if
Right.
you had a child from a culture where looking the teacher in the eye wasn't appropriate? Like
Um,
some
there
children
are
from
shy
Mexico.
people. Yeah, there are shy people that are not comfortable with that kind of body language
Mm-hmm.
and visual connection or whatever. I would just say you're safe. I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Let's
don't want
both
to
look.
look,
Right. Let's
yeah,
both look at the picture over here, and I'll sit right beside you, and we'll both be looking at the picture, and we can talk about the picture. And you don't have
right,
to look me in the eye because in some cultures, and you know this, where the teacher is to be respected, and you don't look a teacher in the eye. How do we
right.
bond with a child when so much of our communication comes through our eyes? And there are ways to do it. Those children feel safe sitting there with me. I'm saying, let's look over there at the family, the home tree, the home tree. Let's see if we
Who's
can
still
see
at home, right?
who's
Who's
still at home. How can we count?
what?
Let's see if we can count how many people,
How many
you know,
friends are still at home, right? Yeah, we would do
right.
that.
Yeah. And that was safe for a child because somebody was right beside them. It's like the theme of this program. Trauma
Right,
survivors walking each other home. Home was not safe. But if a
right,
child can feel a classroom is safe, the child starts to internalize safety.
right. Every day the same things happened in the same order. If something
Mm-hmm.
was going to happen out of order, they were forewarned. Like today, we're having a fire drill. First, we're going to talk about it at the morning meeting. Then we
Mm-hmm.
go eat and we talk about it at the food table where we're eating family style
Yes.
and talking about, with our group. And then that's only like 6 kids. So you get a lot more intimate stories.
Why did, and I love this, you and I know this, but everybody listening might not know about Head Start and some other programs too. Why family? What's family style eating? And why do it?
Family style, they scoop their own or they open their own. They learn independence basically. And we lost a lot of that during COVID, but I
Mm,
think it's starting to come back now because
good.
people were so worried about the germs.
Right.
But
Safety
I
went
don't know, I'm not
too
in a
far.
classroom anymore, so I don't know. But when I had my own preschool at my home, I would
Hmm.
make a big salad bar and they all had tongs and they would just take whatever they wanted. That's family style is you take what you want. then you're more inclined to eat it.
Yes. Right. And
Participate, right.
family style also suggests community. Now, my family style, I can still remember, I can flash back in a heartbeat. Can you? I don't want to, don't do it if it's not safe, but I can go back to what it was like sitting at the family table. Oh, it was awful. Children were to be seen and not heard. My father was the only one who could say the prayers, had to be very polite, had to, couldn't put your arms on the table. I mean, it was really, it
Clean
was
plate
scary.
club.
Clean plate club. If I hate, and I was older, like, and I was adult when I found out that children's taste buds have a stronger response to flavors than adults. So for a child, asparagus is like cookie
Right.
toss,
Or Brussels
broccoli,
sprouts.
Brussels sprouts, all those things are so pungent that a child is going to do that. I was with my son yesterday. My son, whom I love very much, and he's 40 now, and he's always been just him. And I remember one time taking him out when he was only child. He must have been about 2.5, 3, and taking him out to a Thai restaurant. And he was sitting beside me, but of course he wanted to sit in my lap. I was okay. And he wanted to try my soup. I said, Nick, okay, now there's something unusual in this, something new for you in this soup. It's called a shrimp. I want to eat it. He wanted to try it. And so I said, well, okay, let's. So we'll take a little bit. As soon as it hit his taste buds, there went my soup. My soup. I think I was loving to him because yesterday he said, hey, Mom, remember when? Let's do it again. He was eating egg drop soup and I'm eating hot and sour soup. And he said, hey, Mom, can I have some of your soup? I said, sure. So I took a spoon and I put it in his bowl. That's not what I mean, Mom. He was trying to recreate
Right.
because we laughed about that for a long time. But the point is, children, just like you were saying before, a traumatized child becomes hypervigilant. And we used to look at that as a bad trait. That's like the child is super sensitive, overly sensitive. So what I put in my article about, what's it called? We are so much more than our ACEs score. I found a study that said hypervigilance is a strength.
It is. It could
Isn't
be.
it? It could be. I mean, you would not have been such a safe, observant preschool teacher without being hypervigilant, right? You didn't miss a
Right.
trick.
Nope.
Did your parents have any expression about that for somebody that didn't miss a trick?
My parents, my mom would say, when are you going to get a real job, actually?
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, she
Ouch.
didn't.
Ouch.
Yeah,
Just glorified babysitter to her.
right. But finally, actually, my last year at this classroom here, which I
Mhm.
had it so good because there was a lot of funds during COVID, and I would do everything extra to get funds. If I could get fun, and my friend Shannon, she was my co-teacher. She loved to spend money. So I would get the money, she would spend it.
Oh, I
And
love it. So
our
what'd you have?
classroom was so beautiful. We had all really nice fine wood, a lot of, what's the guy's name? Nature.
Rusty Keeler?
No, a lot of
Okay.
nature stuff. It's a new style that they say where
Okay. Oh, I
you
know what
know,
you're talking about. I can't think of the name.
yeah,
Yeah.
natural items, things from outdoors in, and
Yeah.
so I've got to take my mom to see that classroom when it was like at its prime,
Yeah.
and she was really impressed with it. She goes, "Did you buy all this?" I go, "No, Head Start buys it for me."
Right, because it's a traumatic time.
Right.
And traumatic times can produce unusual responses, and some of them can be helpful. So
Yeah.
it's Dr. Judith Herman who said in her book, Trauma and Recovery, she said that trauma survivors like you and me, and probably many people listening, and the children that come to the classrooms are gifted with remarkable creative capacities. And hypervigilance doesn't feel like fun if I'm scared, but it does serve me well. If
It
you know, like
does.
teachers constantly have to do like take account of the classroom. And there are some children that have learned trauma surviving children that have learned to survive by becoming invisible, right? Did you ever have
Right.
an invisible child? Where,
Yeah, but I know where they are. When
right,
somebody comes into my classroom and says, I am here, I am safe, we are now connected. I have a umbilical cord or whatever, a
right.
spiritual attachment to you, and you are not going to disappear.
And you're not going to be unsafe.
Nope.
There are children, I had some of them. Laura was one of them who just, she was so skilled at any environment she was in, she could disappear. She had, it was, call it invisibility. She was in the invisible child. She just had survived in her family by becoming invisible and making herself so small. And so I'm sure that energetically, she was just hunkering down and keeping all of the any energy that was coming might come out of her inside of herself. And it reminded me of when I was the littlest in the family, and I would go behind a big chair in the living room. Children were not allowed in the living room, except if company was there. We had to be all dressed up and wear gloves and stuff. And that was the way it was in the 50s. And when my parents were in a rampage at each other and things were really unsafe, I would hide in the darkness behind the chair in the living room, taking a risk because I knew if I got found in there, it would be double jeopardy,
Double trouble, right?
double trouble. But at the same time, it was the only place I could feel safe. And what I did to be invisible was I just went back into fetal position, made myself as small as I could be. And so when I recognized that children were doing that in the classroom, and adults do that too. Sweetie, we are
Right.
actually at the end of our time, but I want to ask you, as you look back on all the things we've been saying, and you gave us the words safety. What, as a trauma survivor, what matters to you? How important is safety to you now I'm not going to out you for your age, but me as a 78-year-old person,
I'm
what matters to
65.
65, girl? Yeah, you said that the last time. Thank you. Um, how important is safety?
It's the best. Safety is the best. And lucky for me, I know how to be safe, right here.
That's crucial.
I have a safe home. Um, when I'm when I'm with my sister up north, who is not safe, I can stay safe right here. You
Yes.
know, I prepare myself for that.
Yes.
And, I probably avoid some things. Like I don't like to go to bars
Right. You
because
get
I
hit
don't
on.
feel safe there. I
Mm-hmm.
feel icky.
Mm-hmm.
So I have probably avoid certain things that are not horribly unsafe, but it's unsafe to me.
You know what? You just said something that's really powerful to me that I learned when I committed myself to inpatient treatment as a trauma survivor. And that's where I went to my first incest survivor group. But at the time in the 1980s, it was possible to get insurance. I wish these days were still around. Insurance would cover us for inpatient treatment if we were codependent, if we had the diagnosis of codependency, which meant we could kill ourselves by taking care of other people. And if we didn't
Right.
stop that addiction to only taking care of other people, we could harm ourselves. And that's the classic adverse childhood experiences thing. I'll take care of you, I'll take care of you, and I'll run myself into the ground. So, one of the things I learned is this, and you just used the word, you felt icky. What I learned is that when I'm around unsafe people who have shame that they're putting it on top of other people. They're putting it on top of little kids, like my grandfather, who was likely a pedophile. I only met him once, but during that time, when he tried to lure me into his house with a chocolate bunny rabbit, I felt icky. And what they explained to me at this treatment center in Wickenburg, Arizona, is that if someone is around children or adults and is shameless, they're they don't have boundaries. They'll cross right over your boundaries. Not only they don't feel anything because they're out of touch with their feelings, but those of us who are survivors, we feel icky because we can feel the shame coming our way. It's like they're splashing their
Right,
shame all over us. And
right.
yeah, that's it. I did this all the time as a kid to keep the shame away. And that was my defense. Keep it off me. And so it's interesting that you could pick up what felt icky. I still can.
I do too. I can get icked out by people. And sometimes my mom icks me out.
Yeah, I know. That's why, girl, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, when's the last time I was inside with family members? And it's no accident that the last time I spoke in the city on the West Coast where my sister lives, I said to her, I'd like to meet you outdoors. And let's have dinner outdoors and let's sit beside the river. We were in a city that had a river going right through it. I thought it would be easy, but she said, we were in Portland, Oregon. The only place to go was Vancouver, Washington. I said, girl, you know the restaurants here. I'll just take an Uber. It's like a half an hour Uber ride to get to this place. But it was perfect because she got there early. I got there late. She got a table by the river and I felt safe.
Right,
I felt safe. It takes 10 minutes of being outside for our bodies, especially trauma survivors' bodies, to get into the rhythms of out of doors. And there I
right,
was, sitting beside a person who had been abusive to me. And as an adult, as a child, she tried to be my mother, and that wasn't safe either. But I felt safe. And for the first time, I came away from that meeting with her feeling so much, feeling the empathy, not just knowing the empathy that what she went through too, but feeling empathy for her. And I'm not afraid of her anymore. Isn't that
right.
fascinating?
Which I can be that way with my mom, where I intellectually understand she does her best. That is the
Yes,
culture she came from. That is the life that
that's
those
right.
beliefs came to her. So, but sometimes I still get
Icky.
icked.
What do you do, girl, when you feel icky and you're in a house
Breathe.
with somebody?
Sometimes
Yeah.
I go smoke a cigarette.
You used to wait, you smoke? I thought you stopped smoking.
I
Sometimes. Okay.
sometimes I smoke. Like when I go to visit my mom, I usually buy a pack of cigarettes.
I hear you. I hear you. Oh my
Or
God.
when I see them at the cottage, I often buy a pack of cigarettes. But right now I don't own cigarettes. I haven't had any cigarettes in, a month. I have peppermint oil.
Oh, and that helps. Right. And that helps.
Yep.
Ah, what does that do for you, sweetie?
It helps me feel my breath and get calm.
I was with my son who is addicted to nicotine and his dear friend who also is. And I'm open to hearing whatever. And I was asking them, oh, Nick had a bad cough, and I was asking him what type of cigarettes he was smoking. I was wondering because he won't quit, he just can't, but he feels he
Try
can.
this.
Try the okay, FUM, and it's peppermint. All right, I'm
This
gonna.
is peppermint. They have many different flavors. It's like $100 item. It's also a fidget. It
Oh, and
might
he
even
could
be
use that too,
150
right?
fidget,
Wow.
and but it mimics. You feel when you go like this,
You
you
feel
feel
the
it
relief.
entering. You can feel the peppermint going in. So that's what all
Oh,
other smoking replacements never worked with me. But
right. He
this,
tried Nicoderm, didn't work. Oh, okay. So $150. It's
I think
okay.
it's about 150 bucks. I bought one for my friend Joe too. He's my best friend. He's autistic, but you can look it up on Google and find out
You.
about it. They
Thank
they
you.
have whistles too, but this you can feel it feels like you're smoking in a way. Because
Okay.
I went through a phase of also vaping nicotine.
No,
That's no
that's
good. It
no.
tastes good. You can do it anywhere. I had it all the time. I was like,
Yeah, but it's harmful, right?
right. And it's not good for your health any better
Yeah.
than cigarettes. But this is essential oils that are safe to
Mm.
consume. You
Oh,
put
I
the
love
drops,
that.
you put the drops on this little, where's my, there.
Okay.
I
Looks
put
like that.
drops on these. I refill my own. You can
Yeah.
buy new. They supposedly last for a couple days, but I just bought a bottle of peppermint oil and I just refill it myself. It's much less expensive that way.
How much are those
But
things that you put the peppermint oil on?
that those come in little, they come with your first pack. They come in a little pack like this,
Of six?
crisp mint, then you get like
Okay.
three. And I just reconstitute it with peppermint oil. I
Okay.
got
I'm just
I got one that's called Deep Breath, and that has like pine
ah.
also. It's a combination, it's pine. So I get a little different flavors.
Well, good for you for finding out what is usable and
Peppermint's the best.
legal.
Yeah, peppermint is the most satisfying because you can just
Okay.
feel it come in and
So now
it
here's what I found out yesterday in talking with my son and his friend, who's like a friend of mine too. I love this guy. He's 38. Um, they said in the state of Massachusetts, I was asking about menthol cigarettes because I would wonder if that would help with the breathing
relief.
in. Um, and they said, oh, you can't do that in Massachusetts anymore.
No flavored cigarettes. Obama changed that. That was
He
his
did,
first thing he did when he was in office. Oh, I
and he
was
was
so
a
mad at him
smoker.
because I smoked clove cigarettes myself and I couldn't buy them. They had to change them into cigars and put less in a pack. They started calling them cigars instead so that I could have clove because I like that kind
Wow.
of flavor.
And he was an addict back in the day, and he had to overcome that nicotine addiction.
He did,
Wow.
but he
Man,
just didn't
everybody
want to
else.
appeal to children anymore. That's
Okay.
the flavors. He was
Oh, good
trying to
point.
kids.
You
But
know
now
what?
they have the vape and they're like watermelon and juicy
Oh,
fruit
no,
and
bubble gum. I know, I know. Listen, when I here's something, and we need to wrap, but I just want to say, I never thought of this before. When I was a third year law student, and it was very tense because who was going to hire me? Was number one, I wasn't a male. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg couldn't get a job. Who was going
right,
to hire me? Number two, I was a feminist and I was outspoken. And uh, I had taken a self-defense course so that I could walk at night if I wanted to. I did all these things and I was known. It was a city that people could be known. Now, who's going to hire me? And I was scared. But at the same time, I was finishing up because 3 years there, I wasn't going to quit on myself. What did I do my last semester of law school? I found these bourbon soaked, or maybe there was some other liqueur soaked tiny cigars.
Swisher
And
Sweets.
what was it?
Were they called Swisher Sweets?
Squishers. Well, these things were from Europe someplace, but probably the same thing, Denise. And I
Right,
would smoke those not to get the stuff in my lungs. That didn't do it for me. Although, I smoked pot and I inhaled, so I knew that bit. But this just felt good in my mouth and throat. And I remember that for like months. I would self-medicate with that, the
right,
anxiety that I had. And I thought, I was thinking of all these women from the 20s and 30s that were so sophisticated and they would have the long cigarette holders. And I took myself
right.
back to that. But
Kind
listen,
of elegant.
yeah, it was elegant. And here's the deal. I'm gonna wrap this up too and invite you if you have any final comments. What we're talking about here is how crucial safety is to a child. And the first way children learn safety is usually in the context of another person. As trauma survivors, being with the people in my family was the opposite of safe. And so, how did I find safety? I became nimble and quick at getting out of doors as soon as I could. And once I got out of doors, I could find safety. And so, still as an adult, if I start to feel anxious, I'll go to the ground. If I'm on the 18th floor of a hotel, I'll go right down the elevator and walk outside, start breathing in. That safety is crucial. And so I would say to other trauma survivors, as adults now, what gives you a feeling of safety? And here's the other thing. Safety for me was, I thought, from the outside in. It was only when I got away from the trauma and I could go smell lilacs or I could go watch a polywog. That's when I felt safe because I could see something from the outside in. It's taken me decades to find safety from the inside out because I was scared of what I had stuffed down.
Right.
And now you're talking about, you did this, you said something like this, your safety, you've got it.
Right here. And, and just like I talk to kids, I talk to myself. You are safe. I'm going to keep you safe. You know, I'm here. You're safe.
And I do a lot of that too. And because a lot of the abuse with me was when I was an infant, I mean, it started when I was an infant. So I was pre-verbal. So a
Right.
lot of times it's not words help, but also, and I talk myself through stuff, but also I just go to that place with me. I can do the emotional
Tapping.
freedom technique, tapping, where my body starts to calm down. Or I take to heart the research that says, go just get yourselves outside for 10 minutes and you will align with the rhythms. And now I love that there are diagrams of tree roots talking with each other. We don't
Right.
always do that. I mean, come on, I could sit in a forest and feel so safe. It's no
Right.
accident there are all these forest schools. There used to be, and now they're coming back, right?
Yep, they are.
So, girl, what would you say to a trauma survivor listening after our conversation today?
You can make yourself safe. Find
Mhm.
safety in yourself. It's going to be okay.
You're here.
Yep. We're here. We're
Um,
now.
we're
We're
here. We're
safe.
now. We're safe.
And the world is changing. It is. We have been in a 2000-year patriarchal, capitalistic,
Mhm.
dangerous culture for women. I mean, men could just take whatever they wanted. That's why they felt they could take us. That's why your
Grab her
dad,
by the grab
whatever you
her.
want. Yep,
Mhm.
whatever they want, they can take it. But that's changing. Our culture is changing, the world is changing, and it's going to be good. It's going to be so much better. But we're just in the part that's really tumultuous right now.
I hear you. I would keep talking with people who say we're going to go through a real bad time of bottoming out. And I don't want that to happen. I've been through enough bottoms out, but I also feel this is a confidence I've gained as a trauma survivor. The more I create a safe space within and without, I mean, people come
And
to
your
my
home,
condo.
right? Your space.
Right. If I were to go there, I'm sure I'd feel right at home. If you were to come here, I know you'd feel right at home because people talk about coming to my place and they describe it as a sanctuary. It's got all this light coming in. At night, I got a fireplace. I got candles. It's we and within ourselves. I was so moved by the cow in Madurai or someplace in India where like there's people streaming down the streets, and when a cow comes by, you make room because the cow is sacred. Now I looked across the street. I think I might have said this. Looked across the street, and the crowds were separating, just like the Red Sea, because this cow was coming down. And I happened to look across the street when the cow looked at me and I looked at the cow. And what did this cow do? And I got photographs of it. So this is not something I made up. She walked right across and stopped all the traffic between that side of the street and my side of the street. And she came right over and she gently pushed into me. And there I am scratching the cow. Now I see she's got flies and all this stuff on her. So I don't want to scratch everywhere. But at the same time, it's the cow and me.
Right.
People are taking films of the videos of this because they're seeing something's going on. So this is what I'm talking about, Denise. You create a safe space within and
Right.
outside. I
Right.
have
Everybody
not,
else can see it too. I have friends that tell me, because you are you're so much yourself, you are so genuine, you're so open, you're so talk about hard things, they feel like they can.
I love
So,
that. Let's end with that because there's a beautiful quote that I keep sending around Facebook that says, just be your true self. And when that happens, other people around you will feel more able
right,
to
to
be
be
their
their
true
true
self.
self.
That's
And
right.
that's what we want. We want everybody truthful. If we could just be truthful, it would be so much safer for everyone.
I could say, what do I do with the sad that I have? First, I need to say, I'm sad. That's okay. It's safe. I'm not going to get sexually abused because I'm saying I'm sad or because I'm crying.
Right. Or if
Ah,
somebody's going to give you something to cry about.
oh, honey, we know that one well. Yeah, I
Right.
replace that. I replace that whenever that's coming my way as an old voice in the head. I replace
Right.
this with just come here, girl. Just right here. Right here. We'll sit by the fire together.
And that's what
Read
we
your
had to
favorite
do.
book.
We had to change those messages.
Oh, yeah. And I still can be changing some of them. When fear
Exactly. We
comes to me,
re-update them. They only got this good, and now they got to get this good, and now they're going to get that good.
and it's getting better.
It
Sweetheart, thank
is.
you so much for joining me. And I hope
Yeah.
you can join anytime in future. It's just like having a good conversation with a fellow trauma survivor, walking each other home. Thank you.
We're walking each other home. Thank
You
you.
got it,
I
sweetheart. Have a good week, honey bun.
heart,
Bye
heart,
bye.
heart.